Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here, coming at you again with another video over on Ark Survival Ascended, and in this video I'm going to completely explain armor to you. Each individual set has its own reason, perk, and value, so I'm going to go and explain why you need to know how to use each one of these sets and in what position you're going to use them in. Simply due to the fact that yes, cloth is technically the worst on this list, but there is a good place to use it, and I'll show you how to actually get that taken care of. Now, before we continue, if you don't mind, smash that like button, leave a comment below for the algorithm, and then consider subbing to the channel. All right, so let's say you're brand new to Ark. If you didn't know it, there's a total of 8 armor sets in the base game. This doesn't include the ones that were added later with Hazard and other things like that. You have from the left over here, cloth, hide, chitin, fur, Ghillie, Flak, Riot, and tech. Now, each one of these things is a point. There's a purpose to each one of these things. I know that sounds weird, but they're very valuable when you need to use them. Now, obviously, each one of these things is more progressively better overall. However, I'll explain each one from the very beginning to the very end and what you need to know. Anything from the tech suit actually has abilities that people didn't know about, all the way to the new Ghillie, there's a buff to Ghillie suits. So let's go and get started. So cloth armor, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that it's probably the worst armor by far. However, it is useful if you are in a hot area, simply because it's got the best cool resistance in the game when it comes to armor, except for desert, and it's got low armor. You can see that 10 armor per piece is the lowest armor in the game. However, when you're level 0 up until level like 15-ish, cloth armor is still going to give you a damage reduction. As long as you have some of the pieces on and get hit anywhere on your body, that cloth reduction will be huge for actual abilities. Now, hide, by the way, this is where we kind of get into a little more complex concepts, right? So hide is double the armor, and it's also better durability for overall just the number of hits it can take, and then cold resist and heat resist. So those are the 4 numbers that we need to know, right? So if you look over here, you can see the durability is 25. What the durability means is the number of times that you can get hit before your piece of armor breaks. When your piece of armor breaks, you'll have to repair it before putting back on. So higher durability is always better. Armor doesn't necessarily mean much because it doesn't matter all that much as long as your armor stays on. So even though you can see that this has double the armor, the durability is the more important stat because we want as high durability as possible. Now, the other 2 numbers you're going to notice on there is cold resist and heat resist. Cold resist, anytime it's a positive number, it means it's going to help you survive cold. And anytime it's a negative number, it means it's going to hurt. You're going to literally take damage when you go into the cold. So notice how if you go in the heat with this hide on, you're going to take damage per piece that you have on, which isn't exactly great. So hide is a great early game armor up until about level 30, 40, and it's going to give you a good overall chunky survivability compared to the cloth. So it's a good use for the actual warmth because cloth does not provide much warmth, whereas hide does. Now moving on to chitin, which is kind of your next set. A much higher overall armor rating of 50 armor per piece for a total of 250 per suit. And then you've also got a durability that's slightly higher. It's got a good cold resist, and it's also got a bad heat resist. So overall, this is a terrible suit to actually try and use. Chitin is almost never good unless you get it inside of a drop randomly, because it's just a waste of resources because you unlock the next armor set so quickly after this. I would almost say you should never touch chitin armor. It's one of the most important armors to avoid, actually, because of the valuable resources you need in order to make chitin in general. Do not use chitin, just a fair warning. Now, this is a fur suit. Now, this is the next one on our list. You can see we have a armor rating of 40, so it's got pretty good armor. The durability is greatly increased. Notice how it's 120 compared to the last few before. And then it's got a huge cold resist of 65 per piece. Now, I guess not for all the pieces, but the larger pieces have up to 65. So heat resist is -30. So if you wear this in somewhere where it's hot, like the swamp or something like that, you are going to die, but it will keep you alive in the snow biome. With pretty good armor, this is one of the most useful actual armor sets in the game. Fur is incredibly useful when you are trying to go through snow biomes, especially on other maps where there's things like murder snow where you literally cannot survive it unless you have epic fur. And even higher level fur than primitive will give you an insane boost. So always use fur when you're trying to stay a warmth. It's actually got a really good armor rating too, and the durability is shockingly impressive. So Fur will help keep you alive in the frozen zones, and look for the best overall fur armor you can when going into those zones. Now the next seat, this is the only armor class. Actually, it's got two special abilities, right? So Ghillie, the 5th technical armor class that you can have. It has an okay armor rating, a base armor rating of 32. It has a terrible durability of 45. However, it does resistance for both cold and heat. This is the only armor in the game that's going to give you a boost, except for one, we'll talk about that later, to actually surviving hot temperatures. So when you are getting an actual heat wave on the island, which happens pretty regularly, having a Ghillie suit is going to protect you from having any damage from that. It's going to protect you inside of the volcano, and its ability to actually give you cold resist as well means that you can use this as your generic running around armor suit. Now, the last thing I want to add to this is Ghillie armor actually also hides your player name tag. So that's very useful. Now, especially in PvP servers where you want to try and prevent people from seeing you, if you have Ghillie on, no one will be able to spyglass over you and actually hold your player name over the top. That is a new thing that was added inside of Ark, and it's a major change. That gives a huge buff to PvP, even PvE servers where you kind of just want to roll around and not let anyone see you. I don't know if you've tried to see anybody inside of Ghillie armor when they're just rolling around on the grass. It's literally impossible to see. It's not like the last Ark, where I guess Survival Evolved, where you could see people in Ghillie and it was not hard. In this game, if someone is wearing Ghillie, it's almost impossible to see them in the grass unless you turn off grass enable. Now, it's a huge advantage to wear this, especially if you have a good set. This could be your generic overall usage armor for late game. Now, these last 3 sets of armor, we have Flak, Riot, and Tech Suit. Flak is typically the preferred armor for PvP tribes. Now, the reason is because it's cheap to make. It's got really good armor rating at 100. Its durability is pretty good at 120. Its cold resist is nice. However, it's got terrible heat resistance. So believe it or not, this can actually keep you, it's very minimal when you actually get higher ranking stuff in order to get cold resist. However, the heat resist is very poor. So it's actually going to kill you over time if you go somewhere hot. However, it's got one of the highest, it's the second highest, technically, unless you call, well, we're not going to get another maps yet. The second highest overall armor rating in the game is Flak. But because it's so cheap to make with only having to use metal, hide, and fiber, people prefer Flak sets over the next thing we're going to talk about. This is very useful, and if you were to shoot it, you can see that I'm going to do 31 damage per second to that. And in comparison, I'm going to do 80 damage to that. So it does quite a bit of damage reduction. So it's one of the most preferred things, and you'll notice that I actually don't do durability, which is a good thing, but that's the actual damage that gets done. Now, the next thing on our list is Riot. This is technically the best armor in the game. Now, the reason I say that is it's got the highest ability to have a base armor stat, and it's going to have the highest durability that you can get inside of the game. It's also going to give you a pretty good cold resist. You'll notice that 15 on a piece, and then a pretty bad heat resist. However, overall, there's also a special perk that Riot has. If you were to use this, your torpidity actually goes down slower. So if someone's trying to knock you out, it's almost impossible to knock someone out in a Riot suit, because you cannot club someone because of the damage reduction that you get for anyone trying to knock you out inside of Riot gear. Now, gas will still affect you inside of this, but if someone's trying to use a club or something that would knock you out like a horse or an Ekus, I don't know what they're called technically, it's almost impossible to knock someone out in a Riot suit because of the reduction that you take from those damages. You're going to notice that it's actually got a better armor rating than Flak, and it's got about the same durability. Now, those are all your base game things. Once you start getting into tech tier, you actually open up the tech tier suit. You have to beat all the bosses in order to get all of this. And this is going to give you the best overall armor rating in the entire game at 180 armor apiece and 300 durability apiece. You're going to notice it's also going to give you a positive cold resist and a little bit of a negative heat resist. However, if you have all 5 pieces on, it's going to give you a buff so you can survive anything. So that's pretty nice. However, the one thing I want to mention about this is there is no way currently until the maps get released, specifically Extinction, where you can get higher level armor for your tech suits. So tech suits, even though base level, they are the technical highest durability and armor in the game, they are actually not very good because at base level, they should only be used to transport yourself around. You'll notice I'm going to show you a shot on each one of these things, but this will keep you alive in any environment because with all 5 pieces, you get a boost and you actually get like it's like a 200-ish fortitude and boost on having a full flak set on. So just to show you a comparison of how much damage actually gets done, right? So 157 per long neck shot with just a cloth armor on. You're going to notice 109 on that guy. And then I shoot down this one, 57. We're starting to get into the heavy reduction damage numbers, right? So 57, 67, slightly worse. And then we get onto this right here, 80. Now this is where it starts to take a huge difference inside of Ark. 31, right? That's a pretty low number per shot. So I just shot you with a bullet. 28. And then we go on to the actual Riot piece. And you'll notice that you're going to be doing 18 per shot. So the damage reduction is very important to actually pay attention to. So the armor stat is going to give you the damage reduction. The durability is going to mean you can take more shots. And then those 2 heat resistance and cold resistance are very important as well. So hopefully this did a good job of explaining everything you need to know about armor inside of Ark. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to respond. But yeah, if you don't mind, smack that like button, leave a comment below for that algorithm, and then consider subbing to the channel. I am so close to 100K. So outside of that, hopefully this video helps you out. Teach. Out.